Did you know that there are now over 4 million legal firearms in Australia? 4 million. Let that sink in. And yet you probably haven't even seen one, and you wouldn't even know that they're there. Why? Because registered firearm owners go out of their way to be safe, discreet, and responsible. So today, let's talk about what those numbers actually mean and why the real problem isn't people following the law. So let's set the record straight. In 2025, Australia has over 4 million legally registered firearms. There may be also between 250 and 500,000 illegal firearms in Australia as well. Those are the ones that we should be all worried about. We're also seeing the rise of 3D printed and privately made firearms, which criminals use to bypass very strict laws. Meanwhile, there are about one firearm license for every 30 Australians, and the average firearm owner has roughly around about 4 to 5 firearms. In most states and territories, there is no legal limit to how many firearms somebody can actually own, as long as they comply with all the licensing and storage laws. Some enthusiasts own many firearms as well, and they're all carefully tracked and stored under some of the world's strictest regulations. Over 40% of firearm owners live in major cities, and over a third of the Australians' 4 million guns are stored in urban areas. In total, more than 2.8 million guns are stored securely in cities and inner regional towns. So the next time you think only farmers own guns, well, think again. So let's look at the data, not the actual silly headlines. In 1996, Australia's total gun death rate was 2.9 per 100,000 people. By 2018, that figure had dropped just to 0.88 per 100,000. Right now, our gun death rate is roughly 12 times lower than the United States. You can see clearly that the number of total gun deaths and the rate per 100,000 have dropped dramatically over time. This reduction is real, but it didn't come from demonizing legal owners. One of the biggest drivers of gun deaths in Australia is, well, self-assisted exit from the planet. The rate of firearm-related self-exit strategy has more than halved since the reforms. You can see that the same pattern is here, a strong downward trend, but it is important to understand the nuance. Rates of self-harm with firearms are higher for older people, men, and those living in remote areas. This isn't just about gun access. It's about isolation, mental health, and the lack of support services. Simply blaming legal firearm ownership for these tragedies ignores the real underlying issues. So you may be wondering, what about gun homicides? Again, you can see a steep decline since the early 1980s. Rates of firearm-related hospitalizations and deaths are around 4 to 6 times higher in remote and very remote areas than the major cities. And the firearms remain the third most common cause of domestic and family deaths. These are serious issues that deserve real solutions, but they're not driven by law-abiding owners storing firearms in locked safes in suburban garages. So who are these people with the 4 to 5 firearms each? The farmers managing pests, people helping to restore balance in the environment, hunters putting meat on the table, and competitive shooters who spend the weekends chasing that perfect group at 100 meters. They're tradies, nurses, teachers, business owners, and everyday Australians. These people comply with background checks, safety courses, storage inspections, and constant police oversight. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars on locked safes, doors and security systems, and compliance. They do all this to make sure that you never have to worry. And the most of the time, you don't even know that they even exist. The problem isn't the millions of legally owned and securely stored firearms. It is the illegal guns, the ones smuggled in, made privately, and used by criminals who don't even care about the laws. It's the black market networks that continue to grow despite punishing restrictions on legal owners. Every time the focus shifts on cracking down on licensed shooters, we lose focus on the actual criminal networks. And every time there is a new law or media scare campaign, it's everyday law-abiding owner who pays the price, not the people committing the crime. So the next time somebody says there are too many guns in Australia, tell them we have over 4 million guns, but they're owned by some of the most responsible, heavily regulated citizens in the country. You don't see them because they go out of their way to keep them secure and out of sight. If you believe in facts over fear and real solutions over headlines and protecting your rights and responsible Australians, make sure you share this video, hit subscribe, and join the comments and tell me what responsible firearm ownership actually means to you. Let's keep this community strong, safe, and united. Stay safe, keep your powder dry, and I'll see you on the next time.